War is a brutal, unforgiving place. It is a world where life and death hang by a thread, where survival often means making split-second decisions that can change the fate of not just an individual, but entire nations. Yet, in the darkest of times, amid the chaos and destruction, the human spirit shines through with acts of bravery, selflessness, and courage that defy belief. These are the moments of heroism that have transcended history, etched into the hearts and minds of those who witness them. From the blood-soaked battlefields of World War I to the jungles of Vietnam and the deserts of Iraq, soldiers have faced impossible odds, risking everything to protect their comrades and uphold the values they hold dear. Here are just a few of the greatest acts of heroism ever seen on the battlefield. Real stories that prove the incredible capacity for bravery in the face of unimaginable danger. One of the most legendary acts of heroism comes from the story of Audie Murphy, one of the most decorated soldiers in American military history. During World War II, Murphy's platoon was pinned down by a German force in France in 1945. With his comrades under heavy attack and their position near collapse, Murphy made a decision that would go down in history. Despite being wounded, he climbed onto a burning tank destroyer and single-handedly held off a German assault. Armed with a .05 caliber machine gun, he fired at advancing enemy troops, killing or wounding dozens. His relentless courage allowed his platoon to regroup and repel the German forces. Murphy's bravery that day earned him the Medal of Honor, but more than that, it became a symbol of the unbreakable spirit of a soldier. He went on to become a hero, not just on the battlefield, but for generations of Americans who saw his story as a beacon of bravery and duty. Another shining example of heroism occurred during the Battle of Iwo Jima, one of the most grueling and intense battles of World War II. Sergeant Carwood Lipton was a member of the Easy Company, part of the U.S. Marines. During the battle, Lipton displayed extraordinary courage as his unit faced fierce Japanese resistance in the brutal terrain of the island. Amidst constant enemy fire, Lipton took it upon himself to carry out dangerous supply runs, delivering ammunition and medical supplies to his comrades under the heaviest of fire. But it was during one particular assault that Lipton's bravery was most apparent. When the rest of his company was pinned down, Lipton single-handedly charged an enemy position to rescue a fellow Marine who had been wounded in the open. Despite the odds, Lipton carried his injured comrade to safety, all while continuing to provide cover for his unit. His actions that day earned him recognition as one of the greatest heroes of Iwo Jima, a place where so many soldiers showed selflessness in the face of almost certain death. In the Vietnam War, Private First Class Tommy Reamond's courage and quick thinking saved the lives of several of his comrades during an intense firefight in 2003. After his platoon was ambushed by enemy forces, Reamond, who had been wounded multiple times, chose not to fall back to safety. Instead, he held his ground. Despite being hit with shrapnel and a bullet, he crawled across the battlefield, helping to evacuate his fellow soldiers to safer ground. When he was unable to carry any more soldiers, he continued to provide suppressive fire until the last man was out. His actions that day would go on to earn him the Silver Star and the admiration of all who heard his story. Tommy Reamond's heroism embodied the spirit of a soldier who, despite facing the ravages of war, never hesitated to act in service of others. The battlefields of World War I were filled with unimaginable horrors, but even amidst the trench warfare and poison gas, acts of heroism arose that would resonate through the ages. Sergeant York is perhaps the most famous example. In 1918, during the Meuse-Argonne offensive, Alvin C. York, a quiet religious man who had originally been a conscientious objector, found himself leading a charge on the enemy lines. Under heavy German fire, York advanced with a small group of soldiers, capturing 132 enemy soldiers, including a German machine gun nest. Despite being outnumbered, York displayed incredible composure and leadership under fire, capturing enemy combatants and preventing further bloodshed. His heroism earned him the Medal of Honor, and he would become an enduring symbol of courage, leadership, and selflessness on the battlefield. Their legacy lives on in the lessons they taught us about duty, sacrifice, and the true meaning of courage. These are the heroes who remind us of the cost of freedom, and of the extraordinary lengths men and women will go to in the name of protecting others.